I was quoting what it was. What I was alluding to was that the FBI has a metric that they recommend on a state-by-state basis. So the number is different in Wyoming than it is in Florida.
Well, I would think you need a lot less per thousand.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that's true. But my point was that the FBI has these standards that they establish and they renew on an annual basis. And they're state-by-state averages, so you can't. Well, that's my point.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. March 15th, 2018. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business, or item number 3, is to approve the agenda. I'd like to add something to the agenda, and that's to finalize the budget for Parks and Rec, which we didn't do last night.
So moved.
Okay, we'll put it at item number 10F, under new business, but Melissa's not here. When she does come, I'd like to move it to the next item following what we're talking on. That way she won't have to wait too long.
Could I have a second?
Yes, second. I think Jason seconded it, and all those.
I moved it.
I'll move it. Second is Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public participation. Is there any? Paul.
I do. I hope to see everybody at the high school on Sunday for the 35th Annual Farmers Breakfast put on by the East Windsor Lions Club. I know I'll be there having my second breakfast. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, what day was that?
Sunday.
Just coming Sunday?
Yep.
Okay, good.
8 to 11:30.
Further public participation?
You know, Marie D'Souza, 10 Rice Road, Rybrook. I had the opportunity this morning to go down to the legislative meeting.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, this is as loud as I can speak. I have a... Apologize. I had the opportunity to attend the public hearing this morning for the casino bill that was out there, House Bill 5305. And I just want to publicly thank Chris Davis and Tim Larson for the excellent job that they did representing the town of East Windsor and presenting the facts during their talk session and the questions that were asked of them. They did a wonderful job. I also want to thank the contingency group publicly from the eastern states. Kevin Ryan, Senator, and Senator Kathy Olston, and there was one other woman, Bob, and I don't remember her name, but it's Senator somebody.
Don't remember either.
And I don't know her name. They did an excellent job going through the history of how East Windsor was chosen by the legislation and why the dollars should stay here in Connecticut. Got a little contentious with the Bridgeport contingency. And their reps trying to validate, and rightfully so. I have no issue with Bridgeport wanting to build a casino. I just have a problem with the false hopes that I think they're getting from MGM. My opinion, Bob, and you can correct me if you have a different opinion, I think after today, it's kind of split on what their plans are going to be down there. I was a little set back that in the wee hours of the morning, the Attorney General put forth an opinion, and I'm not sure, I haven't read it, and I'm not sure if it's even out there yet, but claims that regardless of what happens, the casino revenues for the slot machines still have to be paid by the Massachusetts Pequot Indians in Mohegan. So just put that out there. If you have an opportunity, it might be a good idea if you're interested to take a look at the televised cast. I'm sure you can bring it up. But MGM did a wonderful job bringing in busloads of residents from Bridgeport, who most of them in the section that I sat at had no idea that they were asking for an repeal of the original vote that was done last year as part of the bill. They just thought it was Bridgeport was going to get a fourth casino. So I gladly showed them the bill on my phone and talked to the group that was over there. And at one point, they actually clapped when I clapped for Chris Davis and Tim Larson, so it kind of worked out kind of neat. But it's going to be a battle for us in town, and we just can't sit back and wait. Bob was out there by himself with representatives from the tribes were there. But if we want to put forth, I think we have to do a lot more effort in this town to make sure they hear us on the Capitol building as to what our needs are going to be. Thanks.
Thank you. Further public participation?
Ed Philippone, 22 Stanick Road. As a taxpayer and resident, opposed to the decision last night to reduction of the police department's budget. As a member of the police commission, I invite you and suggest that you attend our meetings or make an appointment with the deputy or chief to ask questions of what we do, how we do it, why we do it. They're the experts. They've been in the business, each of them, plus 25 years each. More degrees in education in policing and legal affairs than any one of us can imagine. So I think it would be best for the town for you to get a little more familiar with what they do and how they do it and why they do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public participation? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is meeting minutes. And we have a lot of meeting minutes. The last one we did, March 8th, there's going to be a change to those minutes, so we're not going to approve those tonight. We're going to amend the minutes.
Why wouldn't we amend them and approve them?
Well, I thought it'd be good to type it up for one thing, but I hadn't. It was just a last-minute thing, and I haven't changed the minutes.
Okay.
All right. So I move we approve the special budget meeting minutes of February 17th, 2018.
I'll second that.
Is there discussion?
Charlie did.
Oh, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move we approve the minutes of the special budget meeting for February 28th, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? Andy, you have any?
Yes, second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move we approve the amended regular minutes for March 1st, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I move we approve the special meeting minutes of March 5th, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I abstain.
Okay. Going on to item number 7, communications. Is there any communications? I have none. Okay, moving along quickly. Board and commission resignations and appointments. I have a resignation from Jack Bennett from the Charter Revision Study Committee. So I Move we accept with regret the resignation from Jack Manette from the Charter Revision Study Committee.
With regret.
With regret. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 250th anniversary.
Wow, that was real quick. All right, next Wednesday is the Vintage Tea Party at the Senior Center from 12:30 to 2:30. That's going to be a fun event. We have all of our teacups and saucers together. There's going to be a little photo booth that we had at the New Year's Eve Masquerade Ball. It's just going to be smaller and more tea party-ish instead of gray and white. And then all of the month of April, we're going to have a shoe drive going on. There's going to be a box out in the foyer out there. New, used shoes, good condition, bad condition, whatever the condition may be. Throw them in the box and they will get donated in the beginning of May or sometime in May. So start saving up your shoes.
You said even one of the chair.
Yeah, if you can only find one shoe, donate it, because the organization that I work with gives it to amputees or whatever they use it for, so they take anything.
I know you said this before, but I forgot. What was the organization?
Souls for Souls.
Souls for Souls.
Yep, I'll have a flyer and stuff. When I put the box out, I'll have a bunch of stuff on the table that's still out there, like I did 2 years ago.
Okay.
So there'll be flyers and details, and there's a website you can go visit to learn all about the organization and everything else.
Do they do that around the state or?
Around the world, they do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're a
Oh,
huge
really?
organization, so
Oh, okay, that's good.
they do a lot.
That's very good.
So
Are the shoes dispensed locally or will they go elsewhere?
both. Yeah, it depends on who's in need of the shoes and where they go and the condition of the shoes. They bring certain shoes certain places, so it's a huge organization,
That
so
sounds like a lot of work for them.
a lot of people are helped by a shoe drive,
Yeah,
so.
that's good.
We had the home show this past weekend, which was decent. We had volunteers sitting at the table every day. People were there. It was a nice weekend, so I don't think as many people showed up, but it was good. And then that's all I have for an update right now.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the casino, anybody want to say anything about the casino?
It appears as if it's becoming a major issue to replace or change the legislation that allowed the East Windsor Casino. It, you know, just listening to television really, but it sounds like our casino gets increasingly in more jeopardy all the time. Do you think that's true? Or?
Yeah, well, as Marie said, she attended and I attended and I spoke. It was kind of discouraging in the beginning because the first three speakers were, is it Joe Gannon from Bridgeport and other people who supported a casino in Bridgeport, and they talked about jobs and revenue, but then failed to mention East Windsor, and they were talking like this was a bill to bring a casino to Bridgeport, but they didn't really recognize that this was also a bill to prohibit the building of a casino in East Windsor.
Is that what the language actually says?
I didn't read the details, but yes, I would say yes. The way Chris Davis described it, and he said sections maybe 2B or B through.
You know the bill number?
Yeah,
5305.
5305. But
That's how the news portrayed it.
yeah, and it says an open up competition. It says that you have to build a $500 million casino. You have to put, and so that would stop us right there because we're not going to build a $500 million casino. We're going to build a $300 million. But then, as Marie D'Souza said, a lot of people started to speak for us too. But it became apparent to me when I was listening that there was the Bridgeport contingent, and they had blinders on. They're focusing on bringing a casino to Bridgeport, and they're not going to get off that. They don't care what anybody says. They want this bill, it'll bring a casino to Bridgeport. And so, when I left, and I left ahead of Marie, but my conclusion was, this is going to a vote. And so, we'll see how people vote. But I think we have a good chance of winning that vote. But there's a lot of people that are very noisy down there talking about this bill, 5305, to bring a casino to Bridgeport and actually prohibit a casino from being built in East Windsor. So we'll see if the...
Is a vote imminent? It has to be brought out of...
It would have to be voted out of the committee. If
Out
it
of
gets out of
committee.
the committee, then it would have to go to the general legislature.
So the process is that each committee has a deadline that's established by the joint rules, because they're joint committees. And any bill not acted on prior to that deadline is dead.
Mhm.
Those deadlines are all coming up in the next 2.5 weeks,
Okay.
with the public safety probably being next week or the week after.
And that would mean it must be reported out of that
It
committee.
needs to be, yeah, if it's not reported out of that committee by the JF deadline, muerte, no mas.
Mhm.
But if it is acted on before that and is favorably reported out, it may go to other committees, depending on whether or not there's a financial impact or a penal impact or impacts to local zoning rules, or, depending on what's in the bill. So depending on what's in the bill, it may require it to be referred to other committees. Then it needs to be passed by both chambers. So there's a long, long way to go.
And, I am disappointed or concerned about what I heard on television today, and you people were there and heard it firsthand. But I go back to the point that when the East Windsor Casino was voted in last year, that there was opposition in the southern part of the state along the coastline. Same people, Bridgeport, New Haven, that area, against the casino here, for the very same reasons that they're now trying to promote the casino in downstate Connecticut. The vote last year was overwhelmingly in favor of the casino here in East Windsor, and unless that's lost steam somehow, then I think with the short term you're talking about, Jason, that the chances of this not getting reported out and having our casino put back in the mix again is relatively small. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think there's some things that are in our favor, and there are some things that are problematic. Certainly, our legislative delegation is well positioned, with with Senator Larson chairing the Public Safety and Security Committee. That's a good spot.
Yep.
With Chris Davis as the ranking member on finance, which this almost certainly would have to go to. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Bridgeport delegation and the New Haven delegation are going to be actively engaged in this.
Mm-hmm.
The Attorney General and the Governor have joined with MMCT in their lawsuit against the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's good news.
That's good.
Less good news is the Attorney General's opinion today that the Bridgeport Casino wouldn't vacate the compact. So I'd say, I would still say that the odds are in our favor, but they are rightly working hard to make sure that they stay that way. You can't talk about the casino without making betting puns. I have tried for 2 years now. You cannot help but make gambling puns.
I thought I realized, Andy, a lot of money will change a lot of people's minds.
Less so in the area of
That's
public
what's going
financing.
on here.
So in public financing, when all 187 members of the legislature are up for re-election, they can only take so much money. It's not like you can have these windfall fundraisers where everybody's stuffing money into
I don't
PACs.
understand what I meant by that comment, Jason.
Well, maybe I don't, but in the old cognizance of what that comment would have meant, it would have meant you're buying legislators, and you really can't do that anymore.
I'll tell you what, if this thing we lose it, I think there should be an investigation of all the people who voted
Likely
for
will
this
be.
thing to go to Bridgeport.
But I thought it was, interesting. Why did he Attorney General come out today, of all days, to make that ruling when this has been, you know, an issue that goes back to, what, 2 years? And all of a sudden today is a day when it's, you know,
Well,
going to be talked about. I found that.
when was he asked to opine?
What's that?
When was he asked to opine? You know, the bill's
That
only
was-
been in existence for 30 days. So.
No, but that was asked before, when this was all starting to see if, you know, somebody else could open another one. And my thought was that he said no, but that took a long time to get that. I could be wrong on that. But in any event, to come out with it today was, I thought the timing was just a little unusual.
My understanding is that the opinion was on the bill and whether or not the bill would vacate the compact. The bill language has only been out for 30 days, so he couldn't have opined on it in January. It didn't exist yet. The concept did, but the actual language did not.
Right.
So lawyers don't really operate in the notion of like ideas, they operate in the notion of words.
I understand that, but it's more than an idea. Can you open a, you know, one somewhere else in addition to this one or not? That's the issue, and regardless of what's in the language of it.
Is that the question that he was asked? I don't believe it was.
Basically, I just think it's, you know, a little interesting.
Well, I mean, we can play tinfoil hat games all you want, but the question is, what was the question the lawyer was asked? Because they don't answer questions close to what you're asking, generally, especially the Attorney General. They're very ridiculous.
I'm aware of that.
Where's the Attorney General?
West Hartford? Might be Hartford, it's right online.
There is one other thing that was significant a year ago, and that is the governor said that he would not sign any bill other than one where the Indian nations were the custodians, the builders of the new casino. And that's kind of significant unless he changed his mind.
And the governor's comments on this bill is that he didn't expect that it would reach his desk. He didn't expect that it would reach his desk.
And based on what you're saying about the short time that they have.
Oh, no, short sessions are just as dangerous as long sessions. They do the same amount, if not more work, they just do it more compact, which means they're hurrying more, which means, I mean, I've found 2 bills I've actually contacted LCO about where they had typos. You know, their verbiage is wrong, because they're hurrying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what happens in a short session.
Mm-hmm.
Marie, because you went, go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification, the biggest concern, and I'm terrible at names, but Jurian, I believe is his name, he sits on that committee.
Giuliano?
No, the one on the opposite side, not Julian, not
Oh.
him, the guy on the other side. He was kind of like asking the questions
Oh,
of you.
yeah.
I don't
He
remember
was
his
from
man's
Bridgeport, I
name.
think.
But he had brought out several times the question of the Washington DC decision in regards to the
Compact.
The compact, where it states that they have to put it in that book. And it was brought up that they had 45 days to do that, and they didn't do that. So as far as Kathy Olson was concerned, she was the one that was speaking, and says that by them defaulting on not doing it, then the 45 days is elapsed as far as she's concerned, and several others are concerned, that that's an approval per se. Where the problem lies is within the legislative bill from 2 years ago that was approved last year. Within the parameters of that, it clearly states that it has to be put into that register, I guess is what it's called, that book. Has to be put into the register as part of the agreement that was made, and that's the stickling point. So Senator Olson said, well, that can be rectified really if you just take it out as a stipulation, which I thought was, well, that was a simple effect. I don't know if they can do that, but it gave some food for thought. But on the Bridgeport delegation in New Haven. New Haven has got a buy-in because they are going to have the training station, if you want to call it, in their city, which will bring in jobs, you know, for their people. But the two people that spoke, the mayor and Tony Harpin, what's the other lady's name? Jason, I'm terrible at names.
Tony Walker?
Tony Walker. The two of them kind of spoke together, and I'm not sure which one stated, but when they were given their presentation, they stated that, you know, it was an opportunity for Bridgeport and New Haven to go ahead, blah, 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 blah. And no indication whatsoever that there was a second part to it. So as they were walking by, I stopped Tony and I said, excuse me, but, you know, here's the bill. I completely forgot that there's a portion here that says that it's to repeal what's happening in East Windsor. We're not looking to take it away from Bridgeport, we just don't want to lose it in East Windsor. And she said that she would have to clarify because she wasn't aware of that. And these are people that are speaking on that stand. And then the question was asked, what 5 towns are going to get the $750,000? I don't think the man ever got a clear answer. And I don't know why people don't know, and I honestly don't know why he don't know it. It's been reported. It's part of the original bill, and if you're going to be making a decision on our future, then you should know what transpired before. So I kind of was a little
It depends on
irritated.
what serves that,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Huh?
I'm not sure. I mean, they do a lot of work, and I don't mean to criticize them, but, you know, when it's your town that's going to be affected,
Yep.
and it's something that, you know, will help our town, you sit back and you're a little tunnel vision. So I'm not criticizing anybody that's up there because, you know, they're a wealth of knowledge that I don't have and that I don't think anybody in this room probably has the kind of wealth of knowledge that they have down there. So I don't want to disrespect anybody down there. But you got to tell the whole story, and I don't think anybody has the whole story. I'm sure they'll get it after they start talking amongst each other. But, you know, how do you compete with, you know, busloads of people coming in from Bridgeport? And they need jobs, so I'm, you know, as a union person, you know, all power, build a casino there, you know. Do I think MGM's going to build what they claim they're going to build down there? If they do, it won't be for 5 years down the road. And by then, they could have collected 3 years of revenue in the state of Connecticut, and it was a point that Chris Davis made. You could be collecting that revenue sooner than later. And everything has a shelf life on it. So, you know, if the casino lasts in East Windsor for 10 years or 5 years or 20 years, everything has a shelf life. So, you know, the argument that, you know, you can't just let one person have something and not somebody else. The two tribes have been, you know, a real blessing to Connecticut and all the money they brought into all the towns because they started getting into the financials. Well, you know, Bridgeport Casino, they don't have the same thing, and, you know, why should they get it, blah, blah. So, but I don't care if they build a casino in Bridgeport. They have a right to have jobs in their community as well. We have a right to have here. The problem I have is the legislation made a decision. They chose us out of all of the candidates 2 years ago, and to even entertain it. It was entertained because of Goons, who's from Bridgeport. He's the one that brought it forward for that committee because he's on it. But, you
Gomes
know,
is pro?
huh?
Gomes is pro?
Gomes is all about wanting it in Bridgeport. At the beginning of the meeting, he was kind of being very politically correct. But then when the Eastern contingency got up to support East Windsor, then it became Battle of the Wills, and then this true self came up that his job is to, and he's rightfully so, I'm not criticizing, he's absolutely right, his contingency, his goal is to get a casino in Bridgeport to help their economy, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, further discussion about the casino?
I guess we went by, they were tearing it down today.
Yeah, they're tearing it down from the inside, I guess, too. So people are saying, hey, they're not doing anything on the outside, but...
I seen them reaching up there, grabbing stuff and ripping it down today, going up the highway.
I just have one comment that's not really terribly germane, but Pat and I took a ride up and looked at the casino in Springfield first time this past weekend. If the casino was built here in East Windsor, with the traffic problems they're going to have in Springfield, the casino here is going to really be a threat to them, I think. because it's a bugger to get to that casino. In any direction you go in, whether you go in near the Civic Center or come down to Forest Park, we did them both, and they're not easy. And the other thing is, I'm no expert on construction, but that thing sure looks like it's a heck of a lot farther away than September. There's a lot of work to be done there. They don't have the fascia work up, they don't have all the windows in. I'm sure they're doing electrical and utility work inside, but they've got one lot of work to do. And there was nobody working on a Sunday. There were no structural people up there, you know, painting and putting in rivets and things like that.
Time for comedy.
Thank you. All right. So I'd entertain a motion to what? Recess until, for now. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And you guys have to sit in the audience. This is our town clerk.
Oh man, that my bedtime already.
Before I start the meeting, I'd like to introduce the person here, Kim Yatwing. She's a new assistant town clerk, and she's going to be sitting with us tonight. Joanne Slater, you know. Also, we had put the public notice in the paper on March 9th, but if you look at the notice, it says that we're going to have the meeting tonight, Tuesday, March 15th. So it's really Thursday, because I was... okay, so I'll call this meeting to order for March 15th, 2018. The first order of business will be to elect a moderator. Paul.
I'd like to nominate Bob Maynard as moderator.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, is there another nomination?
Move nominations be closed.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of Bob Maynard?
I didn't get all that. You're good.
Okay, I'm going to speak. Paul Anderson,
Paul Anderson did it. Nominated you. Who seconded that?
Me.
Rebecca Talley.
Thank you. Okay,
And-
motions to cease.
Okay.
Who
and
did the
then
motions to cease?
Linda Sitzigal.
Linda
Linda?
Sissegal.
Okay.
And then I seconded.
Make
All right. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll be the moderator. And I'll ask the town clerk to read the town public notice.
Okay, Town of East Windsor, public town meeting notice. The legal voters of the Town of East Windsor are hereby warned that a town meeting will be held at the Town Hall, 11 Rye Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, on Tuesday, March 15, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. for the following. Item number 1, to consider and approve the sale of .52 acres located at 132 Wells Road, East Windsor. Map block lot 095/24/054 to RC Capital Management LLC in the amount of $6,500. dated at East Windsor, Connecticut, this 8th day of March 2018. East Windsor Board of Selectmen, Robert Maynard, First Selectman, Steve Dearborn, Deputy First Selectman, Jason Bauza, Selectman, Charles Samansky, Selectman, Andy Hoffman, Selectman.
Okay. Here's the item. So would someone volunteer to read the motion? All right.
Town of East Windsor Public Town Meeting Notice. The legal voters of the Town of East Windsor are hereby warned that the town meeting will be held at the Town Hall, 11 Rye Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, on Tuesday, March 15th, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. for the following. Item 1, consider and approve the sale of .52 acres located at 132 Wells Road, East Windsor, map block lot 9524054 to RC Capital Management, LLC, in the amount of $6,500.
And you should say, I move the foregoing resolution be adopted.
I move that the foregoing resolution be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Paul?
Okay, are there contingencies on this, or is this a straight sale?
This is a straight sale.
Yay, thank you.
Okay. So we've sold this property.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, the town meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Aye.
Melissa's here.
Okay.
She's over here.
Hiding in a red coat, yeah.
It's like a beacon.
I'll tell you, Bob, if I was reminded, I would have gone to that hearing. They wouldn't have liked me down there. I'd have told them what I thought.
Okay.
I was called up by Connor, like a week or two ago about when it was gonna be, and I just forgot about it.
It was actually postponed because of the
Yeah,
snow.
it was postponed, and then
2 days.
Postponed again.
Yeah, it's the third time.
Third meeting, we're trying to get there. Yeah, they had a tough time.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, John.
Yeah, that's fine.
I
just saw my name next on that.
Yeah, you're right. But Jason's just walked out, but I would entertain a motion to change the order of the agenda to move item 10F, finalize the budget for Parks and Rec, to the next item of business. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Melissa, come on up. Also, I have the budget, I'll pass it down, that we, as far as we've got, we pass it down to you.
Thank you.
Give me one.
One more.
And Parks and Rec is 710,200. Okay. So what we have now is a total of, for Parks and Rec, $278,140. And we made some changes to the request to the Board of Selectmen. We reduced supplies and equipment by $3,000. And we took away the pod storage container. So, are there any questions? Any line items you want to talk about?
How many acres do you have care and custody of?
Well, that's put under public works for the mowing purposes, but we maintain 7 parks and playgrounds, which is inclusive of over 120 acres.
120 acres? And one of the things that came up a couple of times, I think once in your presentation and once in our own deliberations, was the cost of fertilizer.
Sure.
Over those 120 acres, do we do any other add-ons or amendments other than just what you would consider, you know, for your own lawn as a homeowner?
We do extra grub control at some of the locations depending upon the amount of water that we get, especially if they're irrigated fields.
How about lime?
We do pelletize lime on one location specifically, being Abbey Road, to keep it the way that it is.
And so when you price out what all of the fertilizer costs are, how do you actually like pick up the phone and call somebody, or is it an estimate based on some professional association standards, or how do you do that?
So we look at who can give us the best price for buying the steps that we purchase and the complete model that is easiest for one person to administer, because there is one grounds maintainer for the parks full time.
Okay, right.
And so he takes care of figuring out the steps that are needed at all of the parks professionally. But we do call around for different pricing and have changed our steps and how much we need for each park based on the availability of the product available.
Does the maintainer work for the Public Works?
Yes.
And is Lenny here tonight?
He was.
He was.
Okay.
And away.
Well, I'll have to talk to him. Do you think it would be wise to buy the supplies, the fertilizer and stuff? Would you think, rather than have Parks and Rec do it, to have
So when all of the
Maybe Public Works?
realignment happened, with moving the full-time person under Public Works, some of that was supposed to continue to happen and it didn't.
okay.
There's changes in treasurers and things like
Yeah,
that, and it was
okay.
just, I was told easier to keep the money in my budget.
Just going back to what you said about you call around for the prices, and when you came last time, I asked if you had purchased, you know, fertilizer in town at top production, and you said you got some of it there, and you got some of it at Agway in Ellington. And I did a little research, and I was informed that there were no purchases here
Yes, sir.
by anybody in town.
Yes, I would like to apologize for that. That was a miscommunication on my part of not knowing all of my vendors correctly. So it wasn't a purposeful misleading comment. We had used them in the past and for other things, and I was just confusing my.
Yeah, when I spoke with Bill Simon, who runs that, he's on board of finance,
Yes.
he said it's been a lot of years since anybody in town has bought something for the town. And he said he would certainly give the best pricing, but outside of that, the pricing for fertilizer there compared to Agway is significantly different. And I didn't understand that, why you didn't go to one to send someone with a truck all the way to Ellington as opposed to right here, which is pretty close to the major parks, within walking distance of those. You know, that kind of benefit me.
Be sure to get a better handle on that for going forward, and I've already asked the grounds maintainer to write down exactly what he does and how many steps, so that I could properly price it out going forward.
Because Bill is a really good person. He'll
Yes,
be
sir.
glad to
I
help
know that.
any way that he can. I want to go back to,
So just before we get off fertilizer, if we're gonna move around, so I think, what did we leave it at? 20, where is it?
Supplies and equipment?
2,500.
So it looks like we cut your supplies and equipment line by $2,500. If we were to leave that as it is, would we have enough in there to adequately care for the grounds?
I believe so. We could probably reallocate things to another budget year, or reallocate to reprioritizing things, to not necessarily do them every year, but maybe go to an every other year.
And does that still work for things like pest management?
Again, it's very weather dependent, so it depends on how much rain we get and things like that, but the grub control is on a smaller basis, so we don't necessarily have that problem every year. Last year we had or 2 years ago, excuse me, we had a very large problem, so we ended up spending more on that, so that's not an every year occurrence. Unfortunately, it's a little unpredictable.
Melissa, I have a question about acreage. Lynn came back in the room, and I did call him after we talked about the number of acres that you know are cared for, and it sounded like a tremendously large number, over 100 acres. And Lynn did some looking for me. Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you told me that there were like 50 acres of parks that are cared for.
Okay, I don't remember the number, whatever.
We had a conversation right after,
There was
and Lynn did some estimating and some
pretty
looking.
close to 100 acres of, there was around 80 or 100 acres of parks.
Yeah. You had said that, and you said that the amount that's cared for is more like 50 acres. or
Right,
something like
if
that.
you take out the parts that are woods and
Yeah.
such like that, it's
That's what you
probably
told me.
about, yeah, it's probably about that.
So the cared for acres are something like about half, you know, the acreage that we own for parks.
Is that inclusive, is that acreage number inclusive of any maintenance that we would need to do actually in the reservoir?
Yeah.
So, because I know sometimes, it's not a milfoil issue, but there was some invasive that you had spent a fair amount of effort and time and money trying to control. Is that funded out, was it algae? Was that funded out of the same account?
It's been put into that account now.
And what happens if there's an algal outbreak?
So we have reduced swimming hours. We tend to get closed by the health department, and it's unsafe for our lifeguards to be on duty for that time because they can't see the bottom.
Curtail swimming lessons?
All the revenue generators that we bring in.
And when, if the local health district were to close the park, how long would it be closed for?
It depends. We've been closed before for 48 hours, 72 hours.
So we're talking days, not the season?
No. It would require us to physically go in and rake out all of the algae, and we used to do that. We used to have kids spend 5-6 hours a day raking out all of the algae in the swimming area. Now that we've contracted with DEP and this company, Solitude Lake Management, we no longer have to do that because we are able to, through our licenses, apply different product. They come and apply it for us. So that has cured.
And just like shocking your pool, it just needs a couple of days for it to do its thing and fade away?
24 hours. So they usually come in the evening and then we're good to go.
It requires the application of chemicals to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a copper sulfate application,
Mhm.
and they get the license through the DEP.
Mhm.
I want to go back to the salary part-time.
Sure.
Okay. There was 72,400 that was the approved budget. They're part-time. Am I wrong in making the presumption that most of that would be during the summertime for part-time? Because you, through January 1st of 18, you only use 44.
So I've had a vacancy in my office. I had a vacancy in my office last year for a part of time, but most of the time is used in the summer.
So that $7,000 increases to restore to previous staffing levels.
Well, it also includes the bumping of the two people from 15 hours to 19 hours a week, which was agreed upon with the reorganization of the three departments.
And negotiated.
Negotiated.
That's where I differ. We had a meeting, you were here, and you said that there would be no increases in anything.
It was given to you in a packet by Amanda.
That was going to be managed. And the other fact that you said that you were going to reduce one of the people in the snack bar. So, I'm looking at, a budget this year of 70,000 based on that. So.
I can definitely say that I did not say that I would not be bumping the two people to 19 hours a week because that was a negotiated item with Human Resource Generals as well as the first selectman and was given to you in the flow chart during the executive session.
When I did the reorg, because we took Melissa away from Parks and Rec and spread her over 3 departments, I felt that there should be these, we could increase the hours of 2 part-time people from 15 hours a week to 19 hours a week. So that's 4 hours for 2 people, and it's about...
I'm going on what was said in front of us by you and
me.
Okay, that there would be no increases for anything if we made this move and gave her this big raise, that she was going to be able to do it all. And I question that, to be able to do that. No, be able to do it. Anybody else want to weigh in on that discussion?
I have a different recollection of that, and I think what Bob had said, or at least what I heard, was that in the reorganization there would be a net savings to the town. I believe that is still true, and that was what the conversation revolved around, as I recall.
And that's what I meant by it wouldn't cost the town anything additional. In fact, the town would probably save $30,000 from doing this reorg.
I don't recall you making the point that that would mean that no additional lines would change. I remember, I took that to mean it would be a net savings to me.
Well, that's what I meant. If I misspoke, then I misspoke, but that's certainly what I intended.
At the time, the savings was projected to be $35,000. It is now less than 30.
I'm not sure the exact amount, but
I looked at it and I have now forgotten, but it's
and you have to take into account, if you take into account, because we've actually eliminated a position,
yep.
That includes pension and health insurance too, which could
yep.
be well over into the $40,000 range. So it's significant savings to the town to do this reorg. And I think by adjusting some part-time hours a little bit, I think we're in with with Melissa's skill, we're really doing very well. I've heard nothing but good reports. So I'm very pleased.
I don't question that whatsoever, that she's not done a great job. I'm just saying, what was told to me, told to everybody else here, there'd be no increase in any staffing or anything to do this. And she in fact said she was taking a person out of the snack bar to save some money. That's why I'm saying that that budget should not be 72, but should be 70 if you're taking a person out of there.
Oh.
I don't think there should be any increase. I think it should be a decrease.
Wow. So is there any other line you want to change besides that?
No.
Okay, so.
I mean, we had the other ones that we went through.
All right, so right now, without changing that line, the total for Parks and Recs is $278,140. And I will move that we approve the budget for Parks and Rec of $278,140. Is there a second? Second. And I know, we can continue discussing, I know your point of view is that we should reduce the part-time salary. Is there any other discussion?
Well, just so you understand, I heard it the same way Charlie did. I asked a specific question, and I may not have understood, but it was my understanding that Melissa could operate without any increase in staff, and I interpreted that to be no increase in hours either also. Now, that may have been a misunderstanding on my part, but I agree with Charlie, and that is that I think that there should not be an increase in that line.
Okay, do you have anything you want to add, Steve?
I understood it as we were going to be saving a few bucks by combining those three,
Which is, we are.
which we are.
And we're going to.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion, I'll...
Well, I just, you you told something, you go on that, and I don't like this. It's just not right. It's like a shell game. No, that's not what business is about.
You won 30,000 from your shell game. Well, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll break the tie. I will go along with it, so.
Not the right thing. Wrong message.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay. Next order of business is Charter Revision Study Committee monthly report, the first monthly report. So, John?
Yep.
Actually, do you guys want a light in the back of the room? You've been in the dark.
No, this is good.
It might help to see
Go the other way.
That's what I'm thinking. Why don't we...
Always in the dark right back.
That's fine.
Better. The first one up.
You don't want to... Now we have half light. That's an atmosphere.
Well, the board, John Matthews, Melrose. The board is asked to give this status report. This is the first one. This commission was initiated in December as a study commission. It was talked then about starting the Charter Revision Commission, but unfortunately the state sunsets, when you start a commission like this, it's sunset in 18 months. So if we had started in December, it would have been sunset in May or June of 2019. And the earliest we would vote on this would be November 2019. So you'd have 6 months, the commission would be gone, any issues, they wouldn't be there to address them. So the idea was to start a study commission for 4 or 5 months, and then that study commission would first of all determine, do we really need a revision commission? And secondly, if we do, what are the specific areas that that commission should work on? So that's what this commission is doing. So let me take you through that. And what I'm going to do is...
Okay, but can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when would the Charter Revision Commission start, do you think?
You want them to be in place in October of 2019. So if you come back 18 months, I would say May.
May of 2000?
May of this year.
May of this year, so?
So we're only 2 months away.
Okay. Okay. May, all right.
So we will give this report, and most likely the next one would be the final report that would provide our opinion of whether we need to go forward and what those areas are.
Can you clarify the committee situation? I believe this is a committee, not a commission.
Okay.
Did we?
You're saying it should be a charter revision commission?
Committee, yeah, you're right.
Study committee.
Oh, this is study committee, if I
Well,
misspoke.
it says
Okay, I think.
study commission,
All right.
it's not a committee.
We'll correct it.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, a charter revision, how often do you do it? The state mandates that you should review your charter every 5 years. And if you look back, the last revision that we voted on was November 2009. And the earliest we could vote, most likely, the earliest would be November 2019, so almost 10 years. Now, in fairness, in 2014, there was a commission that did quite a bit of work, but I'm still not sure what happened, but it never came to the voters. So, and in a later chart, I'll show you some of the suggestions that they had at that meeting. So what do they do? We're going to review for potential improvements. Sorry about that. We're going to review for potential improvements in the government structure, the operation efficiency, voter participation, voter rights, and there may be others. When? This study commission is, or study committee is in place now. It has been since January. They've had 5 meetings so far. And then we expect, to answer Bob's question, that the revision commission would start in 2018, in May of 2018. And they, after 18 months, would send their questions to voters in November of 2019, which is a municipal election, and we would expect about 2,000 voters to participate in that. If you had it at a gubernatorial election, there might be 3,500. If you had it at a presidential election time, there might be almost 6,000. Now the problem with doing one of those elections is that if you ask half a dozen questions, you're going to really slow down the election process. And you recall, in our presidential elections, we have a line that goes all the way down the hall and practically out the door. So that's not the time that you want to be presenting questions. This is really the ideal time to present them in November of 2019. So who's on the commission? Residents here in town, appointed by your Board of Selectmen. And they have been meeting in Scout Hall on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month. So there's been 5 meetings so far.
John, a question.
Sure.
Do you think you're on schedule for having your findings available for May?
I believe so. And Keith Yegeloff and I are sharing the chairmanship here, and I'm going to ask Keith to come up when I complete my charts to talk about some of the suggestions that we might have. And it's come along far enough that I think we're pretty close to being able to write that final report. So what I want to do is take you through the process that we've gone. And first meeting went really well. We asked each commissioner to provide a concern or a shortcoming, a problem, an opportunity for improvement. And we went around the table 2 or 3 times, and in the course of that meeting, we came up with 25 ideas. And then I asked people to read. We handed out the East Windsor Charter and asked them to be prepared with that charter the next time, and of course, we would be continuously reviewing that or referring to it. And in addition, we had a copy of the Connecticut Council of Municipalities document called Connecticut's Local Forms of Government. And it's basically 3 forms of government. That document is here. You might want to go online and find it for yourself. And they're referring to the three forms of government. Selectmen, town meeting, mayor, council form of government, or council, town manager form of government. If you look around our area, Enfield is council town manager, South Windsor, I believe, council town manager, Windsor, council town manager, Ellington, selectmen, town meeting. So it gives you an idea. So the second meeting, after everyone had gone through that, we had quite a discussion about each of those forms of government. And then we took a poll, and the commissioners were unanimous on preferring the current form of government, the selectmen town meeting form of government. And what some people really don't appreciate, that in the town meeting form of government, that they are the legislative body of the town. We have a board of selectmen. They address the administration of our government. They set the table for town meetings, as you had one tonight, but they did all the preliminaries for that. But the town meeting itself is the legislative body of the town. So all major issues have to go to the town meeting to be approved. So the second part of that meeting, we looked at our list of 25 items, started to consolidate, discuss those, consolidate them, and prioritize. We pushed about 5 items right off the list. And then we asked, somebody on the commission said, let's go back and review what the last team had done. So that's what I call the predecessor 2015 Charter Commission work. So third meeting, we went through that, and let me give you an idea. I don't know how many had an opportunity to review that work. So let me give you an idea of some of the proposals. Take you a moment here. This is the work that Laborious was chairman of. Their ideas. It went to the Board of Selectmen, and it died. Never went to, it was going to be a single question on the ballot if it went forward. But here are the number of areas. There's, I have identified 8. Starts with increasing the Board of Selectmen to 6 members, plus the first selectman, so it'd be 7, where we currently have 5. They would have hired a town administrator. The interesting thing about that is they were looking for that town administrator to do research of comparable towns, which I think is a pretty good idea. That we go along in our own town, we're not exactly sure how other towns are operating, whether we're in balance with them. They proposed eliminating the police commission, eliminating the Board of Finance, going to the budget default would have gone to 2% plus cost of living. They would have had 2 referendums only. We currently have 3. Very little happens between 2 and 3, so perhaps it would only be 2. And then a petition for a town meeting is currently 20 signatures. They wanted to move it to 200. How many petitions have shown up even with 20? I can't remember very many. So to make it up to 200 would be extraordinary. Very, very difficult to do. So that was meeting 3. Meeting 4 was to review the Ellington Charter. So all the committee members had the charter for a week, and they had a chance to read it, and in this meeting, we identified the highlights, where there are differences. The Board of Selectmen, including the first selectman, are all 2-year terms. Now, our selectmen are 2 years, but the first selectman is 4. You know, there's 100 towns that have our form of government, and there's only one town with 4-year term for the first selectman, as far as I know. All the research I've done. That's East Windsor. Now, why would you do 2 instead of 4? There is no recall capability in our town. If you elect a person, you're very unhappy with them, you can't recall them. If you have frequent elections, it takes care of it. 2 years. Now, I'm not suggesting we change, but that's what Ellington does. In Ellington, the police chief reports to the first selectman. Now, they have resident state troopers. I'm not quite sure how that works out. The Board of Selectmen shall not diminish the powers of the first selectman. Very clear in the charter. Under elected positions, planning and zoning is elected, not appointed. Under appointed, they have a financial officer. The town attorney. He is appointed by the Board of Selectmen, but his term is 2-year, and it coincides with the Board of Selectmen. So as soon as a new board comes in, they have an opportunity to select the attorney they want, and his term ends when that select term ends. And then expenditures in excess of $7,500 require seal tax. That's how it's. So the 5th meeting, which we had this Monday, we reviewed the Suffield Town Charter. And the idea of reviewing these is to see what from those charters to be able to apply and solve some of the issues we have. So in Southington, in Suffield, they also have the town meeting as the legislative body. But interestingly, the electors can petition for a referendum to override anything decided in the town meeting. Now, it's not easy, but they have that ability. But again, in Suffield, the first selectman and fourth selectman, they're all 2-year terms. Other elected positions, quite different than ours, they elect their treasurer, they elect their tax collector, they elect their town clerk. Now, that's not a complete list. They also elect the Board of Fire Commissioners, Board of Education, Board of Finance, and elect the Planning and Zoning. So that takes us to, that's the process that we process. So you can see, initially, we polled all the committee members to get their ideas. No one member is going to dominate or say, "Not this is what we're going to work on." All 25 were brought out. Let me see if I can show you those. No, it looks like I'm not going to be able to. But I think at this point, I'd like to have Keith come up and talk about our consolidated list. We started with 25, we're down to about 12. You want to talk about that?
I mean, I don't know if there's any questions about this. There was a little story in the paper. The reporter's been coming to the meetings, which is good. We kind of narrowed the list down to things that are addressing ambiguities in the charter. We want to get into Muni code so you can search it. We want to it's all messed up in terms of state statutes. All it does is reference generally state statute in accordance with state statute. There's no specific references to anything. So if someone wants to find out what's the statutory basis, they can't. So we want to clean all that up. And then we had some stuff, we've been talking about having a CFO position. There's been a lot of discussion about whether the town could benefit from a chief financial officer type position in lieu of a treasurer position, and whether the charter should make that change. And so we're looking at other towns that are operating more as having a chief financial officer rather than a treasurer. And then CFO assists all the boards and commissions with the budget issues, but also helps the town plan for what's the appropriate way to spend money, or gives advice to the town leaders in terms of spending.
Keith, what are the major differences between having a treasurer and a chief financial officer?
Well, you know, a highly qualified treasurer person could be a CFO. It's not really about the person, it's about the position. The treasurer's job is to manage the budget. They have a lot of tasks that they're supposed to be doing, especially in East Windsor. But the CFO is more of a leadership position whose job is to interface with the elected officials and the boards and commissions and try to do planning for the future, and planning, budgetary planning, and help to set priorities, gather information from other communities about how they're doing their planning, and try to give recommendations about where the town is overall in the budget and where the town should be in terms of getting to it, reaching its goals. So the CFO is more involved in, it's like a corporation. The chief financial officer is more involved, is not just involved in the day-to-day operations, but is part of the administration in terms of managing the organization in terms of its growth. Yeah.
What is the committee's distinction between a CFO and a town manager?
So we don't like the town manager position, because the town manager is a leadership position. That person runs the town. So a town manager is a person who is running the town on a daily basis. Town manager is essentially a first selectman. Okay. Now, town manager has a lot of skills in terms of continuity. Brings continuity in the position. It doesn't have anything to do with the election process, but all the employees in the town report to the town manager. They do all the employees report up to a town manager. So the town manager is the chief executive officer of the town, not the chief financial officer. So there are differences. And we talked about maintaining the board of selectmen, first selectmen. We're trying to advance concepts. We're not making decisions. We're identifying areas that we think the board would be interested in having more information or looking to explore. We didn't think that a town manager replacing a first selectman was the right way to go. That was what we came up with. But we think a chief financial officer would be the right way to go. And we talked about converting the treasurer to a CFO. We talked a little bit about a town administrator being the continuity position to work with the board of selectmen and providing some continuity. It's kind of split right now on the committee as to whether or not we think a town administrator would be useful. There's some thought that it would be the case, but that's not a town manager position. That's an administrator to assist the town government. We talked.
Who's that person report to?
The which one? Town administrator would report to the first selectman. That kind of position is what if we went that direction. And we're happy to have. It's open to anybody. We want to hear opinions. I mean, right now we're talking about things within the context of the group, and we're looking at other charters. We did talk about the police commission, and the problem with the police commission is a structural issue with the charter. The charter doesn't designate a police commission. It calls for the appointment of police commissioners, but there's nothing in the charter that says that the town will have a police commission. And so those police commissioners in the charter are just purely for guidance. They're not police commissioners in the sense of the charter. The charter also says that all employees will report to the Board of Selectmen. I'm sorry, the Board of Selectmen will decide all of the policies and procedures for every employee in town, and all contracts have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. And then in 1971, there was an ordinance that created the police commission. And so we have a conflict between the charter and the ordinance in some respects. Ellington doesn't have a police commission, they have a police department. Enfield doesn't have a police commission, they have a police department. South Windsor has a police department, not a police commission. Suffield has a police commission. And so we're talking about trying to fix the structural problems in the charter. Because right now, it's inconsistent. And we're not saying there should be a police commission or a police department, but we're trying to fix the charter. Because right now, it's so ambiguous.
I think you meant to say they have police boards in those towns, not police departments.
In which towns?
Ellington. and-
Ellington has a police department.
But they also have a police board, I believe.
But the police department reports to the first selectman. And in South Windsor, the police department reports to the town manager.
Right.
And in Enfield, the police department reports to the town manager. And that's called the police department, and the police commission is different.
Yes.
We talked about having a cost-sharing commission in the charter, reducing the number of petitioners to force a referendum, and then having procurement procedures and purchasing procedures right in the charter. So we're trying to strengthen the charter, and some of the issues are, I don't call them controversial, but they need to be clarified in terms of the police commission versus the police department. So what our plan is to go out to as many towns that we can, talk to the first selectmen or the town managers, ask them their opinions about what they like or don't like about these things, and try to gather data that we can use to make recommendations to the selectmen. And that's all we're doing right at this point. We try to narrow it down to a list of things that we think are important for the town to be able to move ahead and clean up its charter and help improve the town in terms of governance.
Keith, how many more towns do you think you're going to be able to assess before you have to turn your final report in?
So I think we're looking at about 6. I think we made a decision to focus on the towns in this area. We can certainly, you can always look at other towns around the state, but I don't think most people are going to, personally, I think that people will connect with a better understanding about what Ellington does, or Enfield, or Windsor Locks, or Suffield, because we understand those towns and how they're similar to East Windsor or different. If we start talking about Westport or Darien or some other towns, even though they have really strong charters, we're not going to be able to have a connection, intellectual connection to what's going on in those towns. So I think we're talking about like 6 at this point. And it's really interesting. But the other underlying concept, I'll just finish, is that the committee is really strong on the town government, the town meeting form of government as our legislative body. We want to strengthen the town meeting. We think that the voters in town should be able to have as much influence or impact on town government as was set up when this thing started 300 years ago. This form of government is 300 years old. It was set up so members of the community, the voters, would be able to impact their government, and we want to make sure that the charter continues to move in that direction, not move in a different direction, to limit the right of the town meeting. And we were all pretty strong about that. I think you have some people
that seems to work well up to about 25 or 30,000 population. If you look around the state, that's about the break point when towns move to a council form of government. In the council form of government, you elect representatives, and they make all the decisions for you after that. That's the only time you're voting, is when you're electing that representative. Now, some towns may have the annual budget referendum, but other than that, it's pretty much done by the council.
As a committee, we didn't think that moving away from that, our current form of government, was going to be beneficial to East Windsor. And keeping that and strengthening it is really important.
It's about the purest form of democracy that you can have, this type of government, versus representatives. You elect representatives and then they speak for you. That's what we have in our national government. And you get pretty frustrated sometimes. You wish you could say more and influence more.
And the group is actually very diverse. You know, there's contrary to what people might think, there's a lot of diversity of opinion on that committee, and it's not a homogeneous group whatsoever. It's different people with different opinions, and the folks are speaking up, and Charlie knows that because he's on the committee. People if they have something to say, they say it, and we've had some tussles and some discussions, and it's not one type of opinion. It's really it's varied. But the wanting to do something important for the town and to make sure our charter is strong and clear, so we don't have ambiguities, that's something that we're looking to focus on in terms of this charter revision.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Thank you, John. Thank you, Keith.
Get the lights on. Okay, I have a question for the board. Sitting in the back of the room is Steve Mednick. He's been working for, he's a lawyer, and he's been working for well over a year on trying to resolve an issue we had with a lawyer who was let go. He's going to come, he's scheduled to talk to us tonight during the executive session. It'll probably take a long time. And the question is, do you want to, I think we'll continue with the meeting, but he said he'd be willing to come back another night if we don't want to go too long tonight. So that's the question. Should we ask him to come another night, or should we kind of go into to work late tonight? That's the question. Is there any discussion about that?
That issue is a pretty complex issue.
It's a very complex
I read the document you provided, and I'd like to understand it pretty well. So unless there is some objection, I'd like to defer, we get an earlier start on it.
I think we should have a special meeting just for that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to move the discussion of Watts to another night. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Why don't we just,
Go ahead.
no, it's fine.
You ready to get on the agenda? It is on the agenda.
I voted yes.
Okay, so the Code of Ethics ordinance amendments.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
You never gave a date,
No. Well,
so it's up to you.
Gentlemen,
Aye.
so this process started about 3 or 4 years ago under a previous chairman, where we started looking into fixing some issues with the code we had. Then we had other fiascos that taught us some things. We decided, instead of scrapping what we had, to amend it to better suit our town legally. Because some things were pointed out to us in our old code that were not legal at the state level. So have you all seen the proposed amendments, the red line document?
Mhm.
Okay, do you want to go through every one, or do you have questions?
Well,
For the benefit of people who haven't seen it, maybe it would be of interest to go through it.
Okay. You can relieve me at some point. I'm Tom Burnham,
Michael Scalzo.
Michael Scalzo. All right, so under the purpose of our code, we were going to add, a lot of this came from a model code the state provides under the municipalities board, that we borrowed a lot of that because they've already had lawyers look it over and approve it. So we kind of thought if we borrowed from that, we could save on having it re-looked at. So we wanted to add a line the state used that said to add and a simplified procedure to bring alleged infractions of this code to an impartial committee for investigation and appropriate remedy if required without fear of reprisal.
And that's amending the purpose of the ordinance.
Amending the purpose of the ordinance.
This was intended to make it a little bit more user-friendly. That's what.
I was just restating for folks who don't have a copy.
So it's really just, yeah, user-friendly. Our next change,
But by the way, the summary you just did there, that would be perfect to go through for each of these, again, for the benefit of folks who don't have it in front of them.
Sure.
under standards of official conduct, we wanted to make a change to the conflict of interest to add.
Sorry, I didn't understand 2.4. It says,
It's existing.
That's existing.
I know, but it seems to say in twice. Is the word in there?
Shall mean an action that a person performs in a given state of facts.
Yep.
And, yeah, you're right.
And also, in the line down further, it says, or he exercised, or the exercise, I think. I think there's some spelling errors.
Or he exercises.
Yeah.
It should be or the exercise of.
Okay.
We're moving on to 3B for conflict of interest. Conflict of interest shall mean an interest, direct, indirect, personal, or financial that is incompatible with the proper discharge of the officials or employees' responsibilities to the town, commission, department, or agency, or that would tend to impair his or her independent judgment or action in the performance of his or her official responsibilities. We'd like to add, as prescribed by the laws of the state, additionally, any official action which benefits the individual, his or her immediate family or business is expressly prohibited and is a serious conflict of interest.
And again, that came out of the model code of ethics that the state had provided. And we just took an excerpt of it and added it in.
Does the model code or somewhere else in here define serious conflict versus minimal conflict or some?
So it's not segregated.
So is there a distinction or is that just vernacular?
I think it's just vernacular.
Yes.
Our next change is under 3.3, gifts and favors. We've had no one can receive a gift over $10 in any calendar year, which you can't get lunch. So we wanted to up that to $50 in value for the calendar year.
Why would we do that?
Well,
I'm surprised it doesn't say you can't accept any gift. Because that's, you know.
but somebody could argue that if you guys go out to lunch and you pick up the check, you're buying him a gift.
That's true.
If you two went out to lunch and you picked up the check, somebody could argue you're buying him a gift.
Even though the purpose of that lunch was to discuss business.
Or not.
But-
to discuss business.
Or not.
But in a lot of government contracting, military, DOD, and NASA, for example, they have zero.
Military has $25 per year, as of 2000 when I went in.
Okay. As administered by the DOD, the people I worked with, and NASA, it was zero. If we went out to lunch or dinner, they would always contribute. May not be the right amount, but they would contribute.
Yeah, New York, I did a lot of work in New York, and it's zero. And Maryland, the same thing. Virginia was the same thing. Texas, the same thing. Zero.
Well, again,
Is
these
there
are
any reason why we wouldn't make it
recommendations.
zero?
Yeah.
These are recommendations that we're making to the board.
The reason why we wouldn't have it be zero is because of those. That when Barbara Smeagol came to the board and did her dog and pony about the Melrose Historic District, and she gave each of us one of those, that would be.
That's a gift.
And it's a gift
But-
under the zero.
But in the same circumstance, she could have donated those to the town, right, instead of giving each one of us?
She could have, but she very specifically
Yeah,
said,
I know
I brought
she
each
did.
of you a gift.
I know she did.
That's why you would have that as some squish.
And there's scrutiny there, because if it's zero, that could be problematic somewhere down the line. And that's probably why it was at $10 all this time. And we felt that $10 needed to be updated.
It is allowed for in the state model code also. I can't remember the dollar amount from the state model code.
It's 50.
Well, I don't know about the model code, but
Yeah.
for state officials, it's 50.
See what I get by the end of the year.
The next
I haven't had
change is,
you on yet.
under commission. I'm not sure how, but we're not allowed alternates. So with the state law being that our 5-person commission, which is down to 4 due to a vacancy, the state law says we have to have 4 yes or no votes in any direction for a vote. So any vote we have right now has to be unanimous. Allowing alternates would be fitting. Every other commission and committee has alternates. It would leave us open to being able to hold meetings and run when we're short.
I would have a question about that. I think it's fine if you're just having regular meetings, but if you're having a ethics commissioner hearing, then I should think you would want the person who's going to vote to be there through the entire hearing. You couldn't come and go. You missed parts of the hearing.
Well, correct. Well, I think part of the hearing is to the commission to establish at the beginning of the hearing, as being of the inquiries.
Yeah.
And if an alternate had to be filled in, let's say somebody had to recuse themselves from the hearing due to a conflict of interest, then the alternate would fill in for the hearing. So,
For the entire hearing. And that,
As of right now, we're 1 person short for the commission. One of the other members goes to Florida every year at this time of year for 3 or 4 months. So if we had an issue last month or this month, we wouldn't be able to convene a vote.
Now, my comment was, just as long as during a hearing, that you have the same
Consistent,
4 or 5.
it would have to be, because once we start inquiries, it's confidential. No one else can join into it.
Okay.
That sounds like a good idea.
Bob? The WPCA is in exactly the same position. 5 members, no alternates, and we have 4.
Yeah.
Well, but we only need 3 to carry a vote. But it's a similar situation.
Your issue is you need a supermajority of the members, and that becomes 4 and a 5-person board.
Right.
And on a 4-person board, 3 doesn't work. So we also want to add to the establishment where no member shall be a town employee, and no member of said board shall hold or campaign for public office.
And that comes out of the model also.
Comes out of the model.
Campaign should be changed to and be a candidate for.
You're thinking they could campaign for somebody else?
No, I'm thinking of somebody could decide that they're, well, this is specific to the ethics board, but you could decide that you're going to stand for election instead of campaign for election, which is, you can use my name on the ballot, but I don't plan on knocking down any doors or being on any walk piece or anything. Somebody could make an argument that there's a distinction between actively campaigning and being a candidate for it.
Okay, that is from the state code, so it's up to you. We can make that change. Michael?
I don't, well, if a person's campaigning for an office, then I shouldn't think he could be a member of this board. You're saying he could.
He's saying.
I'm saying that it probably is semantics, but I would think that the better vernacular would be shall hold or be a candidate for any public office, because you can stand for election without, you can stand for office without running for office.
I agree, that's a better descriptor.
Case in point, anybody who never knocks on any doors or goes to any of the rubber chicken things or anything, their name's still on the ballot on the 2nd Tuesday in November. 1st Tuesday in November.
I have no problem with change.
Just for food for thought, that's not a deal breaker.
Okay, we're moving on quite a bit to section 4.3. We're adding on, well, first change is number 3, where our current code allows for a $1,000 civil penalty to be recommended to the Board of Selectmen. During previous meetings with the town attorney, he found out that was illegal at the state level. We could not recommend a fine higher than $100.
Why is that?
It was a determination in the state law that we couldn't fine anyone more than $100. We could look for restitution for damages, but the actual fine for a violation couldn't exceed that $100 mark.
Okay, so this includes employees, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was happening here, and there's nothing in here about that if they're found in violation, depending upon what the circumstances, that they could be forfeiting their pension, which is now the case with the state, is it not?
I'm not certain of that.
Because that's what they were trying to do with Roland going back.
Oh,
he didn't,
right.
He made the you get under the wire, I guess.
One of the things with our code is all of these punishments, we can't enforce any of them. We can only recommend the Board of Selectmen takes action on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it would then be something that would be levied by the Board of Selectmen.
I mean, to me, that has some teeth in it, and the idea is so nobody does anything, not to lose a pension, but it's about putting teeth into it so people really understand the consequences of, you know.
I agree. I guess the previous board.
The degree of discipline that the board takes is something that you guys would have to agree on.
And the distinction between the Rowland case and what this is that the Rowland case came about because of a conviction of a felony.
Exactly.
This does not, this would be for violations of a municipal ethics code.
Right, and you'll see a section in here where we could refer it.
Yeah, yep. Actually, that's the next one.
Yeah.
It's in there, so, you know, why wouldn't we put, if someone is convicted of a felony, that they would have.
Well, if a complaint were to come to us that we felt or determined was a criminal violation, that would, actually, the number 5 here is to refer it to law enforcement, because that's above our power. We have no power.
Okay, but law enforcement is gonna do what they do to have the person arrested, et cetera, and may go to jail or whatever. But it has nothing to do with, you know, the punitive things like the state is doing with employees. You know, if they're convicted, they lose their pension.
Convicted of what?
Of a felony.
This isn't a felony, this is just an ethics violation.
No, I understand, but if you move it on to law enforcement, I get that, okay? But where do we have any way to have more teeth into the violation so that we could?
You'd like to be able to remove somebody's pension.
Yeah,
You'll be able to determine that. If we refer a case back to you and say, we found a violation of ethics.
Yeah.
But I think removing anybody's pension would have to come from the union contract.
That's what I would have thought too.
Well, I don't know.
Not necessarily.
I don't know. I think we need to do a little research on that piece, because if this is about ethics, I don't know where else you put that. Do you know what I'm saying? That's my point. I get the part going to law enforcement if you think it's a felony, but back at the ranch, that, you know, I'd like to be able to, you know, to pull away somebody's pension if they've done something so grievous as that.
Does the board currently have the power to do that for any other reason?
Nope.
No.
No. Like I said, so.
Not that I'm aware of.
We can only
You're right,
recommend.
Yeah, that would go beyond our.
We can only recommend a punishment, so if you can't levy the punishment anyway, why would we put it into here?
Well, we need to talk about that at some point then, because.
So you would need to change it so you guys could remove pensions before we recommend it.
And I've never seen that happen in a disciplinary case. I have seen it happen within an organization. As an example, a union. A union head finds one of his agents doing something egregious. They charge him, they discharge him, they take his pension away, they do all of those things, but it's all part of their organization.
Part of their agreement, but we have people that aren't part of the bargaining unit.
That's right.
That are on the payroll of that.
So why don't we,
And I think you would need to seek legal.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
so number 6 would be a violation of any provision of this code may constitute grounds for removal or dismissal from an appointed position. One of the things that came up from previous meetings with the town attorney was that we could not do anything about removing elected officials.
Yep.
So then upon request of any aggrieved party, the board shall delay the effect of any decision rendered by the board for a period not to exceed more than 7 days following the rendering of such decision. It's another line from the state model code.
What does that line mean? The board shall delay the effect of any decision rendered.
Upon request of the aggrieved party, I'm assuming the state had a reason for adding that.
But
some person who was aggrieved by something wanted to wait till they were gone or wait till they were not.
It's almost like an appeal period of time.
But
Give you time to
to
appeal.
whom? So this section governs your
If you were the
board's
victim-
options, but we ultimately are the decision maker.
That's right.
And so you're gonna make, I suppose after a cooling off period of 7 days, you're gonna make a recommendation to us but we're the decision maker.
Right.
Right.
That seems odd.
It is what it is.
There's gotta be a reason it's there, I don't know what
It is what it is.
So 4-4 is where we're probably.
Well, but it's 7 days,
Yeah.
Yes.
put an S on it.
That's true.
Well, it's only after Sunday, the 7th.
7th day. Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Yeah, I used all my fingers to type this.
Yeah, all right. Well, you did well. I was
on a roll today.
All right, 4-4, procedures for filing a complaint. One of the major complaints we've heard is that no one knows how to file a complaint if they wanted to. There's no form for it, there's no, the last one we got was kind of a joke the way we received it, so. So we changed this quite a bit. All complaints must be filed directly with the Ethics Commission via the town clerk's office, hand-delivered or mailed to the town hall in a sealed envelope and in compliance with all the terms and conditions stated on the official complaint form. The town clerk's office shall immediately inform the chairman of the Ethics Commission of the receipt of any complaint. All costs associated with a received complaint for investigation and/or hearing and any other matter that may develop as a result of the filing shall be borne by the town of East Windsor.
Is that also boilerplate?
Yep. Just moving on to 4.43, the complaint must be filed within 2 years of the alleged violation.
Down from 5.
Down from 5.
5 years
That means
to
you
file
could
a
be out of
complaint.
office for a long time and retired, and somebody could get pissed off, and it's just 2
Wow.
years. Eh?
5
If you've got
years.
an ethics complaint, 2 years is too long to wait.
Look at what they're doing to Trump.
Yeah. The respondent is to be notified. We're going to remove via certified mail within 10 business days of the commission's receipt of the complaint. And we'll say the respondent is to be notified as follows. The commission shall provide notice of such receipt or issuance and a copy of the complaint by registered or certified mail to any respondent against whom such complaint is filed, and shall provide notice of receipt of such complaint to the complainant. Again, boilerplate from the state, it is basically saying that the person making the complaint will be notified also that the violator has been notified.
But not who is lodging the complaint.
No, that's all confidential.
Forever, right?
No, it can be released at the person's request.
The complainant's request.
Yes. Well, once it goes to a hearing, it's pretty open. Number 5, the commission shall review the complaint and determine whether the allegations constitute a violation of the ethics code. We're going to add and notify all interest parties, because there was it didn't really read correctly originally. We're going to add a C, number 5C, no person shall take or threaten to take official action against an individual for such individual's disclosure of information to the Ethics Commission. After receipt of information from an individual under the provisions of this part, the Ethics Commission shall not disclose the identity of such individual without such individual's consent unless the Commission determines that such disclosure is unavoidable during the course of an investigation. No person, including ethics commissioners, shall be subject to civil liability for A, any good faith disclosure that such person makes, or B, for any decisions ultimately rendered by the Commission. Layman's terms, if you complain on your boss, you can remain anonymous until some investigation is done.
In reality, how do you make that work?
So if you were to have somebody working under you who makes the complaint, they hand in a sealed envelope to the town.
Yep.
We are notified, we hold a meeting, we open the envelope together at a meeting. At that point, we learn the complaint and who's making it, okay? We have to determine whether that complaint is worth investigating or not, if it's just somebody upset or not. We notify the person who makes the complaint with our decision. If it is a complaint, we notify the person who's being complained against. Okay? That person doesn't know what the complaint is till they come to an inquiry, but they'll also receive a copy of, I believe, the complaint itself.
But at that point in time, it must be obvious to the person who's being complained about.
But anybody can bring an ethics complaint against anybody else. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to have a direct relationship. It could be, you know, the guy at the back of the room.
It could
file a
be anything.
complaint
Not
against
only
anyone.
that, the code also allows, we're supposed to, it allows for policing where if we see something we think is a complaint, we can bring it ourselves.
You can bring it yourself.
Yes.
Really? Well, I suppose, because if anybody can bring a complaint, you don't lose the rights.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Now, under the finding of violation is kind of redundant because we had to, the code had to list what we could do, and then the steps forward. So these are the same changes from before. We're changing the $1,000 fine to a $100 civil penalty, adding a referral to law enforcement. Violation of any provision of this code may constitute grounds for removal or dismissal from an appointed position. Here's the important part. We're adding a severability clause. The old one did not have it. So severability clause, which is taken from another board's clause, I can't remember which one it was. In the event any provision or part of this agreement is found to be invalid or unenforceable, only that particular provision or part so found and not the entire agreement will be operative. So
That's a good idea.
well, the old one didn't have it, and technically, if there was a violation and somebody got fined $1,000, and they said, wait, the state says 100, the whole thing's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So then we removed the name of the former person who attested to this, and then we have a copy of a model. It was a quick form we came up with that would be left here at Town Hall and hopefully available online for somebody to print out the information we need to move forward with the complaint.
Now, I probably make a bad assumption that there's been far and few between ethics complaints over time.
Far and few between.
Okay. So, I know that I've seen this someplace, I know in certain businesses, they have a, you know, what the ethics standard is, and if you have an issue that you go to wherever, and that's posted in the workplace, are you going to do that, recommending to do that?
Like, as far as what? As far as this form, or as far as if somebody wants advice on a complaint?
Well, you know, here's an avenue to take if you think there's an ethics violation by somebody or something, and, you know, it's a one-page thing that I know I've seen it, and it says, you know, ethics violations. If you feel blah, 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 you know, here's who to contact, here's what to do.
There could be something like that above a pile of these forms.
Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah.
But I think that would depend on the person, the department may want to post that, or if the town wanted to post that.
Yeah,
I think that's something the commission should,
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to put it wherever.
wherever all your other legal postings are, you
Yeah.
post your postings, your
Yeah, exactly.
discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. That's,
Human resources kind of issue.
yeah,
So nobody says, you know, I don't know.
I don't know how to do
right.
it.
It's-
I don't know.
Well, all town employees, officials, and elected officials are supposed to receive a copy of this when they get sworn in.
Okay.
So they would have this and the form, and they would, and the policy would be stated to them then.
Okay.
Now,
That would-
anybody,
Yeah, that's for new people now coming up, we get the new,
Yeah.
and anybody from the public would have, this should be online for them to find. Somehow searchable that they can know
Or,
what to
you know,
do.
we should put it up somewhere in here, you know, in the town hall. Just where to go.
Oh, that's a good
to
idea,
do it,
yeah.
you know? That, you know, people, they come in with a lot of fire in them because they feel about something, and then, you know,
Yeah.
the first selectman's not here, you know, doing, you know, whatever, and you kind of lose the steam, and whereas you see something, well, this is how I can do it, so.
That was actually part of the point of requiring a form and mailing it in, is if somebody does see something, and gets a head full of steam and thinks they're gonna bring
Right.
somebody's parade, they
Yeah.
go home and cool off, fill the form out, am I really gonna mail this in or
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
it's pretty formal, and once it's
Yeah.
done, it's.
Once you
pretty
mail it in,
serious.
it's in.
How public is a filing?
It's not at all.
Once it's filed, is it open to the public when you
No.
deliberate?
So you would take this, say somebody takes this form, fills it out, mails it in.
Yeah.
We get notified, we have a meeting, there is timeframes in the code.
Which is a closed meeting?
It's a closed meeting, yes. We open that envelope, we determine if it's a complaint. We have, I believe, 7 days to notify the complainant and the person making it, if we're gonna move forward or not. If we say, hey, there is no ground to stand on here, which has been the case for a few, it gets filed in a confidential file in the first selectman's office, I believe. There's a confidential file there for our stuff.
And then that person who filed it is notified?
They're notified.
Is deemed unacceptable?
Right, so then if we determine it is a complaint, we have to go through their complaint and determine who we need to talk to find out what it is. And we have the power to subpoena people to come to a confidential inquiry where it's just closed doors, what do you know about this? You know, and then during that, we're held to try to minimize the information that's passed out. Because if you were a a bystander that saw this event, I can't tell you who's taking the complaint, but what happened that day. You know, so there, it does say in there that there's gonna be some information leakage during an inquiry, but it's in confidence at that point.
And how long do you have to deliberate over this?
Well, we have to determine if it's a complaint at the first meeting.
That's that 7-day thing?
Yep.
But once you determine that, there's research to be done to see how valid it is.
That's the evidence. We have to start holding inquiries, I believe, within 30 days. From the date of we receive it, there's 60 days for a hearing to start. If we don't start within 60 days, it's invalid.
And then for final determination, is there a...
Depends on the length of the hearing, depends on...
There is no time limit.
It's not defined.
It's however long it takes.
It's not defined.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. But like I said, we chose to amend what we had already, because by taking things from a state model code and by making smaller changes, that we were hoping to save some legal fees on how much is gone over. We spent enough money.
That makes sense.
On the ethics.
I think we've made an improvement.
But we'd like to, if we had started off by rewriting the whole thing, and it got overwhelming as far as having every section looked at, we'd be going bankrupt.
This will get
We only got a $200 budget. But we didn't spend it last year, so we need change.
That's why all the hearing fees are being assessed to the town.
Yeah. But like I said, the changes that we made are, I'm not gonna say they're important, but they don't, we were thinking they wouldn't require legal opinion. They're cut and dry kind of changes.
But you have to do that anyway, don't you, Bob?
Well, that's what was going to be my question. I think I think this doesn't need a lawyer to review it, but if you vote to have that done, we certainly will do it. So it's kind of up to you.
I think you got one mistake in here.
What's that?
On 4.4. All costs associated with received complaint for investigation and/or hearing or any other matter that may develop as a result of a filing shall be borne by the town of East Windsor. We should say right after that, not to exceed $26,000.
Should $1,000. The previous...
Unless you want to put us on the clock, then you'll get a bill.
Decisions were made to involve the lawyer more often than I think should have been last time.
That was a joke.
We're not going to go there.
So that was just a smart-ass remark.
Which didn't surprise us.
I'm surprised it took that long. All right.
Do we have to have any clarity, you know, if some, you know, you make a charge against somebody, you feel that there's an ethics violation, and they retain an attorney.
Real quick.
And through the process,
Don't get it.
it's determined that they didn't. Is the document, should it be in a document that we would not pay for that person's attorney?
There is something about the complainant receiving hiring an attorney. It's allowed.
I saw it's allowed, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they can't, it's their option to have an attorney. There's nothing in there that says we pay for their attorney.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if.
And if it's a frivolous suit, they can sue the accuser if they want. Go that route.
Okay.
Is there any
Yeah,
other?
but in that instance, if the accuser is a town employee or another public official, they're indemnified for their action anyway, and then the town still pays for it.
The only one's going to make out on that is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no good that comes out of a hearing.
So what I'm hearing you say is act right.
Work hard, be polite.
We didn't really think this was going to require legal review either, but again, it's a decision.
It's up to you guys to make.
Yeah.
Our changes are, we tried to keep them,
They're still within the same structure that
They're important,
the
but
original
simple.
document was.
we didn't, the parts we had to add, we used something the state already provided. You know, if it's questions like, look, we took this from you guys. But I know that changing the ordinance requires a town meeting, so.
Yes, definitely. So I think We should, if we are in agreement, we should move to approve this and send it to a town meeting. But the question is, when we make the motion, should we say we approve it pending approval by a town attorney? That's a question I'd like you guys to decide.
I hate to say it, but I think we should.
Okay.
Just to cover ourselves in the town, but also, you know, that enough information is provided to the attorney, not just say, you know, take a look to see if it's okay, to say what you just said, you know, that we had gotten this from, you know, the changes are from.
Should we hold a meeting and invite the attorney?
Well, I think we could send it to them and say just what Charlie said. Take a look at this. We've looked it over. We think it's legal, but and don't try to rewrite it or anything. Just
That's important to make clear.
Yeah.
We're not looking for a rewrite to make it
We'll
better.
do the changes too, because the black is the code we already have.
Just the red line.
Just the red lines and the other lines.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be available for any questions.
Okay.
I think the changes they've made, it just clarified it, and made it better, I really do. And if we do go to an attorney, I think we should make it very specific. They're looking at the red lines to see if if those red lines commit us to something we don't want to be committed to. Or
Okay.
Not to rewrite.
No, I agree.
We're not going to pay for that.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the document that has been provided to us regarding the Ethics Commission that has been rewritten, and that the document should go to the town attorney to review the red line changes in there, period.
And send it to a town meeting.
And send it to a town meeting following that.
Okay,
I second it.
discussion.
Errors accepted?
In what sense?
The S on 7 days and.
You pointed out several typos that needed correction. We ought to not accept the version that was put in front of us, but the version that was put in front of us with those corrections.
With the corrections. All right.
So we'll just add that to the motion.
You've got the Word document. I mean, I can do it, or you can do it.
No, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I have it in front of me. We all do. Okay, if there's no further, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
If there's any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Still think you should put 26,000.
Okay, now we'll go to item 10C, an RFP for town council. And I sent this out. Does everybody have a copy of this? I made this by looking at a number of towns' RFPs for town council and taking what I thought was the best parts. If anybody wants to make any changes, you can do it now, or you can say that you'd like to do it in a certain period of time else.
On the second page in, top line, it says publicize RFP, March 16, 2016.
Yes, and that's why they're highlighted. We can change those dates. Those are dates that...
Okay.
I'm not sure that an individual attorney is appropriate. The reason being is I think we have complex work, and I think that a single shingle guy is going to end up outsourcing a lot of that to somebody else, and we're just going to pay for him to outsource it to somebody else.
I put it in there Because, well, first of all, the board of, you guys are gonna make the choice. We're gonna have RFP, we're gonna get hopefully a number of people applying. I think, and maybe we can work, I think there's some, like the reviewing of this ordinance, you wouldn't have to pay a person a lot of money to do that. So maybe we could have an attorney you could turn to, or maybe looking over a real estate deal. Yeah, we don't have to pay a lot of money for that kind of legal advice, but so to pay a firm with that comes at a high price and have a town council that you have to go through all the time, that might not be the way to go. I think what I found now is that we have some very good lawyers from Pullman and Conley, a tax lawyer and a bonding lawyer, and I have written engagement letters with those specialized attorneys. But so it would be whether, I think the first selectman or I could to some degree manage and should manage, if we're going to try to contain legal costs of who we use for what case or what matter. So I think that we should interview everybody and see what they have to offer, and I don't think that the town council has to choose who you're going to use to represent you in labor contracts or represent you in bonding. I think that's a choice the first selectman should.
Are you proposing that we have more than one legal counsel?
Catalog.
Well,
I don't think that's a good idea. I agree with Jason. I think you're looking for a firm that has the basic resources to do our work. Now, will it be a necessity at some point in time to get a specialist? Yeah. But if you go to a generalist, a very small firm, they're going to be outsourcing a lot of stuff, and that comes with overhead, going into their firm also. So I think it's a costly way of doing it.
Okay.
Whereas if you get a company that has some basic resources that cover, I don't know what the right number is, 80, 90% of it, I think that's what you really want. And if there is some specialty outside of that, they can go out and outsource it, but you're not dealing with someone who's going out 90% of the time for expertise.
Right.
Well, looking for a lawyer, but I don't see one.
Well, I think it's we're really talking about your applicant's qualifications, that first line. Is that what we're reading here to get over this?
On page one?
No, second page.
Oh.
No, I was looking in introduction, and I would strike out in the second line, or individual attorneys. And then in the second and third line, or attorney, well, just second line, or attorney. It should not, I really don't think it should be a single shingle guy.
Okay, and that, we're discussing this, and that's fine. I believe some towns hire an attorney, a municipal attorney.
Yeah, as an employee.
As an employee.
Yep.
Now, that employee isn't part of a law firm.
But that employee also has no other clients.
Yeah, but he would have to go to other attorneys to get expertise.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't see a big difference between that attorney and a person who works for himself and works for us and outsources specialty needs.
Only money, I think.
Yeah.
Money, I think.
You think it would?
Because they're going to have a pass-through if an attorney or a small firm, we hire a small firm, if they have to go outside for a major portion of the expertise to deal with our legal activities, then there's going to be a pass-through, an overhead.
I'm not sure if there's a pass-through. I think so much an hour is what we pay. We have an engagement letter with them.
And that engagement letter will also say something along the lines of, and any other expenses incurred. And they'll attribute that contracted attorney as other expenses incurred. That's why that language is there.
No, I mean, we'd have an engagement letter with the attorney they refer us to, not them, not the town council. We'd have an engagement letter, just like now, we have an engagement letter with a tax lawyer at Pullman and Conley. It had nothing to do with this town council. That's an engagement letter between the town and a tax attorney. We have another engagement letter with a lawyer at Pullman and Conley who does bonding, and that has nothing to do with our town attorney.
I'm trying to understand in this introduction where it's limiting it to a single practicing attorney.
No, I don't think so.
That's what we're saying we're opposed to.
Oh, yeah, it says proposal from a qualified law firm or individual. Now, we can take out or individual, we can say qualified law firm. That would solve that problem, and I have no problem with that.
No, you have to leave that in there because you want a qualified law firm. It might be with individual, with you know, some.
Or individual attorney.
See what's
I
wrong
think,
with
Charlie,
that.
you have qualified law firm, you got it. I think that covers it all.
It does, but in other towns, they have, you know, I know Ellington, they have individual attorneys. They don't go through their town attorney for general government issues, for, you know, labor and other things. They have people that just do that alone, law firms. You know, it was more on the second page I was looking, each applicant shall be an attorney admitted to the practice. It should probably say that each applicant shall, or each applicant shall be a law firm with an attorney in next to that in parentheses S, or attorneys, because if there's somebody responds, it's just one, and they might have multiples.
Well, we're asking for a town council here. We're asking for one,
Yeah.
in a sense. We're going to hire one, but he can be a member of a firm or an individual attorney. I was just opening it up to whoever wanted to apply.
Well, then that should say, should be an attorney with a law firm admitted to the practice.
Shall be an attorney, yeah, okay.
Okay. I don't think we have to overcomplicate it. They'll get it with what you're looking
Well,
for.
yeah.
But in these qualifications, we don't say anything about, you know, prior representation with, for other towns. Prior experience with representing other towns. In the qualifications,
Yeah.
I think we should have that in there.
Have what? Say that again, please.
Experience representing other municipalities.
Yes, kind of like.
So who else worked on this document?
Well, like I said, I made this document, and you asked for the lawyer's name. The lawyer's name is Rich Waring, W-A-R-E-I-N-G. He's works out of maybe I have it, from a firm in Glastonbury. And let's see. Yeah, Natalie and Wallinitz. But if you look Richard Waring up, just Google him, you'll find his law firm. And I just met him, and he said he'd review it for me, and he did.
Is he going to be an applicant?
No. He doesn't do municipal law.
What is the specialty? Contracts?
I'm not really sure. Maybe litigation. I think it's litigation. Yeah.
The WPCA has a law firm that we have a retainer with to represent us in WPCA matters. We also have a separate labor attorney that we don't pay a retainer to, but it's used as needed. And if we had something else come up, we'd go somewhere else. Because while that law firm has expertise in sewer plants and issues, and they represent a number of them, that's the level of their expertise. When it comes to labor, they don't want any part of it. We have an attorney at every meeting. It's gonna be somebody from that firm. It's typically consistent, but the key is to have a representative that has background to come to our meetings, because we have legal issues just about every meeting. And it works well, so I'm just giving you that concept of what we're doing, not that you're gonna do the same thing. But we hired a law firm, we didn't hire a lawyer. On purpose.
Go ahead.
So the expertise is in that office. So if an issue comes up, they bring it back to the office. The office comes to a conclusion and comes back to us with information. Because we want that. You know, people deal with many different plants and different things in different municipalities, and you want all the expertise you can get. It's just telling you where we're at. I don't know if it helps.
And again, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're really looking for some go-to organization that can handle a large percentage of the issues that we deal with. Now, that doesn't preclude you from going out and getting someone who has specific expertise in, you know, pollution control or in labor relations or something like that. But my opinion is that we should be seeking someone you can go to and say, is our ethics document, is that okay? And they'll look at it and take your directions and say, you know, look at just the red lines, that's all we're interested in, and go do it. And that kind of thing, you know, 90% of those kind of issues will be taken care of by this firm. And if we require going out for some specialty, it gives you the option of asking that firm, do you know someone who will do this for us? Or you can go out, and with a good relationship, you can say, would you recommend doing this? And you can go out on your own to hire that specialist.
I would think you'd want a lawyer with experience, a lot of experience in municipal law.
You had mentioned at a point in time that you thought Bertha Kleiner would be a good applicant. I gotta tell you, they come with a good reputation.
Yeah, no, that's, I will go out with an RFP, and that's why I'm bringing here, and certainly
I would be comfortable with a firm like Bertha.
Mm-hmm.
If not them, you know,
yeah.
Shipman and Goodman or Dayberry and Pitney, and you know, and there's.
And I'll look to you for some names then. And I think price is one thing, is a big thing. If we can, I don't want to pay a lot for an attorney. I don't want to pay a lot for a muffler.
We just spent $800 to send a lawyer home.
I do.
He lives in New Haven.
I understand that. My mistake, you know, I should have had a special meeting. I should have thought of that ahead of time. That's another topic. So we're talking about the RFP. So I'll change it to a firm. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, that's fine. The only thing on the page, professional liability on page 4, that I don't know if you, and this came up on something else, you had a chance to talk to the town insurer, that is the $1 million, you know, enough?
That's a good point. I'll check with Kermit.
They're the ones that, the law firm is the one that's going to have to provide that insurance, so I think it's about $5 million today.
I'd be good with that.
What's that?
I agree.
Yeah, just don't want to. Okay.
Okay, I'll make those changes, I'll send it out, and if you want to make more, let me know.
So do you want to finalize this at the next meeting then? Is that what you're saying?
I was searching whether I should, but we certainly can finalize it at the
We
next
should be able
meeting.
to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, send it out with the changes and.
all right.
Well, I was going to circulate it to see if we had other comments and then send it out after the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So, are we through discussing this? Move on to the next topic, which is Mr. Norton and illicit drainage and connection stormwater water ordinance.
Is this a boilerplate thing for like a grant or something?
No.
No.
No,
It's like
not for a grant,
boilerplate
it's
for like a
for-
mandate.
Yeah, it's another unfunded mandate.
Is the language prescribed as well?
This is from deep. This is, they have mandated that every town in the state, you know, you've got to have your new MS form, your new stormwater plan that I have, my new annual report. Part of that, you got to have an illicit discharge and connection ordinance. I also have to come up with a plan to do this, but we need some mechanism to be able to enforce whatever I come up with.
So the
So
DEP
they have basically gave us this template because they wanted it to look the same for every town.
So just to be clear, the legislature required DEP to require municipalities to adopt boilerplate language.
Well, they don't,
Why would
I'm sure I could have come up with my own if I wanted to. Why would I do that when they gave me this? They'd like them to look the same. And this is, there are differences in here that are directly related to my plan.
So let me put on my libertarian hat for a minute.
Okay.
Because I have a strong
This was supposed to
libertarian
be
streak.
easy tonight.
I won't be too hard on you. This is a mandate from the state saying that we need to adopt this.
Yes,
What happens,
by July 1st.
what happens to the town in Somersville, Connecticut that decides that they're gonna not
Nothing
do that?
probably.
Okay. And so what happens practically when we don't do that? What are you not able to do when we don't adopt this?
I'll have less work to do.
Everybody wins.
Because I don't have the whole.
And less government.
Hey, I'm good with that. I just need your minutes where you do not approve this, so I can put them with my plan, so.
Well, what are the high points in here that?
It's just telling us, they're trying to find, you know, one thing is basically illegal connections and what have you to the town storm drainage system, and the state storm, this pertains to our town.
Okay.
But there's people that tie things that shouldn't be tied into storm drainage, and then you find them wherever the stormwater discharge is. And
Now,
part of,
without this, can you exercise any authority to prevent them from doing it, or do you need this in order to exercise that kind of authority?
With this, can you exercise that authority?
this.
I'm wondering if they're repeating this.
Oh, okay.
This, well, we're still, if you read this, it talks about you can recoup costs, you can go out. I don't, the actual enforcement body is like the Wetlands Commission probably. I get to do all the legwork, but they have to make the.
You'll have to find the connections or someone that's dumping something bad into the storm sewer.
Well, we're gonna be doing a lot more monitoring with the new stormwater plan. It's online, actually, the plan and my annual report as to what I've done and haven't done to date and when I'm going to do it. But one of those things
How do you
is,
see this when you go to clean the storm drains? Then you'll know if
well,
something-
we have to actually start doing real inspections. I mean, we have to start looking at suspect areas to start with, like there's probably not a whole lot going on in Windsorville, but as you get over to you know, the
There might
industrial area and stuff, there could be, but I mean, you
Some
know,
of the
you're.
subdivisions that have popped up, anybody cut the corners or anything? Right, isn't that?
A what?
So what is the bad behavior you're
Well,
seeing?
we're looking for contaminants. We're not looking for somebody putting the, you know, tying a sewer into it, that's a bad thing.
So
Tying a
this-
footing drain into it, that's not a bad
This
thing.
is like those old plastic beads that are killing the lobsters?
Yeah, sure.
Microbeads?
Whatever, yeah.
Yes,
Yes?
So,
anything.
plus, you've got stormwater discharging, we have to do dry monitoring, we have to do wet monitoring, we gotta, you know, does it look like something might have come out of here, you gotta go back and, there's a whole slew of fun things we have to do, but they're just trying to get the waters.
What's the wet monitor? Do you have somebody in a wetsuit, you drop down the storm drain and go check it out?
No, it discharges, where they discharge, where it comes out, wherever it discharges to a water course or a swale or what have you.
I wanted to see that.
Where do you test it?
Me dropped into a manhole, but that's what, so, thanks.
Where do you test it?
Not
The
you,
water
but
for contaminants?
I'm s-
You test the discharge water, right?
Yes.
Where do you test it?
I mean,
How do you test it?
Well, I have to hire somebody to do that. They take the sample and they take it to the lab. And then they're sampling for certain things. They're sampling for bacteria, they're sampling for coliform, they're sampling for chemicals. In the industrial park, somebody could, you know, if somebody's tied cooling water of some sort from some manufacturing into the storm drain, because, you know, they don't, you know, they're monitored through the WPCA if they let the water go through the plant. I mean, you know, crazy things happen out there. I don't know that we have a whole lot of this going on in East Windsor, but we have to find that out.
How many tests do you think you would run in a year?
I don't know. We're just, we're
Dozens,
about a year away from having to actually do that. So I haven't even got my fingers around that part yet. I'm still spinning from getting to, and I was with some public works directors this morning, and one of them said, yeah, what are they gonna do? I'm not doing it. Here, take me. You know, I'm not going for the town, sorry, I'll do my job.
Is this a large expense to the town to have you go off and do this and
It will be.
hire a laboratory?
It will be.
and
It's gonna start to get very, you know, quite a bit more expensive.
You know,
Not as expensive as it would have been the initial go-around with this. This has been through a few iterations through, it's been going on for years. And initially, there were towns that were saying it was gonna cost them $1 million a year to do the testing that they had to do. They were gonna have to hire staff and what have you. I've got a really good environmental company that I deal with, and I've dealt with the same gentleman for years through different firms that he's been with, and he's my guy. And he helped me at a very minimal cost to do the stormwater management plan. I did probably 90% of that myself, and my administrative assistant did all the, you know, word processing, typing, what have you. And even less minimally on the annual report, I can call him and say, I got a question about this, so, but he'll make some money when we start doing the sampling and all that stuff, so.
No, Dick Sherman was here from, what is
American
this?
Heritage River
Yep.
Commission.
The what?
The American Heritage River Commission.
Yeah, okay, that. But anyway, he was here, and he talked about how they test the water in different points, and he was talking about, you know, doing the testing in the Windsorville pond up there on East Road. And, you know, I'm sure you've been down East Road, how much of that is now dead that was lush as green before? And, you know, for whatever reasons, you know, prior administration allowed Ellington to dump their water from that road on Jonathan Road that goes right at the edge of, you know, that should have never been allowed. But have that happen, that dumps into there. And, you know, now you see all the vegetation's dying on East Road. So, but he said he was testing it. I guess my point is, are you working with him? Does it make a difference to do that?
We will be. That's all part of, they're listed in here as one of our associates, what have you. We talk about their river cleanup that they do every year.
Okay, good. So
that's all
redundant in what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's all part of,
Perfect.
that's all part of the plan. It's pretty interesting reading if you have the time sometime. It's really actually good. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to make another payment to the state for our permit. So,
We're paying them so they can mandate us?
yeah, yeah, we take a permit out every year, and so it's kind of fun.
Okay, so we need a motion to.
Well, what you need to do is have and the important things are in here. I don't know if it's exactly, you know, if you need to change the format of this for an ordinance, or you could just put this, you could put I mean, it looks like you could just put the ordinance number up here, whatever it happens to be. And then on the last page, I got that it seems like when you've adopted ordinances, that it becomes in effect, full force in effect 15 days after the publication in a newspaper. So I added that in there, and then there's just a spot there where you put in what date you passed it, and the day of the meeting and what have you, so.
We can just make a motion to have an ordinance for the illicit discharge and protection stormwater, right?
You want to just move to adopt the ordinance, that's the easy way to do what you're trying to do.
And then I guess you have to send it to a town meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we move to adopt the ordinance and go to town meeting. Good.
Second?
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Couldn't let you get away, Scott.
Come on.
Just wait till next year, but
I don't even want to think about it. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
So, 10E, approval of tax refund.
I move we motion to accept the tax returns as presented.
What usually you say the amount? Right.
For $391.68. Is that $391?
Yep, 368.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those- Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, selectmen. Reports. Andy?
I have nothing to report. Their meeting will be at the end of the month, and I will sit in that meeting.
Okay.
The EDC.
Hey, Jason?
It's just been budget stuff. So I don't have anything really to report either. The East Windsor girls basketball team lost in the second round of the state tournament. Had another good year. We all got invitations to the blue and gold, I think it's the blue and gold banquet next Sunday. And the Lions Club breakfast is this Sunday.
Okay. Charlie?
Okay, I got a couple things. One is that I ran into Barbara Smeagol, I guess that's how you pronounce her name, and she has not received the letter from you.
That's true.
That we spoke about, so.
Yeah, I have it on my list of things to do, and I'll do it. I want to get in touch with her. I want to see kind of what she wants us to say in the letter. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing is that in our discussion we had, I guess that was yesterday, about the hiring of the economic development director, and that, what some options were. And I had, talked about that we need somebody on a half-year basis, and then maybe we have somebody that we do something on a bonus or commission basis. And somebody said, well, we're going to do that, municipality. And I said, well, the state has done it. I know, Jason, you said that, the state has not done that and never would. You
I said we don't do bonuses.
In 15 years, okay. And that'll give you a little insight as to that it is being done. Okay.
Is it being done by the University of Connecticut?
Well, they're state employees, right? Are they?
They're like the fourth,
Employees,
they're
they
like the
got-
fourth branch of government.
They got $93,000 in bonuses for some accounting stuff. So there is precedent there, Jason, that they have done that, and that's just one. There's been others. That is one that
Did you get bonuses for selectmen at all? Just joking.
oh, but I mean,
I was just joking. But that is valid. We could have bonuses.
yeah, so they do it, Jason.
And the auditors wrote that the bonuses followed no structured plan, which gives the impression that the payments were determined in an arbitrary and subjective manner. This according to auditors Garrett Goshen and Ward.
So it's not fake news. I mean, the auditors are the one who found that they were passing those out. And there have been others also in the past. So I guess since, you know, that is something that government does, there they didn't exactly get it straight.
But Yukon officials did agree not to provide bonuses in the future without first developing criteria and a formal plan. So they got their hands slapped by the auditor.
But we would certainly, if we were gonna do that for, and I'm not sure whether it's a good idea or not, but if we were to do that for the economic development professional, we would certainly write in how he or she would qualify for bonus.
There are more problems with that than simply saying we'll pay out on a percentage basis. For example, when did you score them?
Say again?
You know, somebody's, I'm trying to think, of the Calamar folks have been moving in East Windsor now for 3 years. So assuming you were to attribute that to an economic development person, and you had that one person in place in 2016, but they don't open the doors until 2019, and you've replaced that economic development person with somebody new, who gets the credit?
I would think the one who started the process would, personal opinion. But again, all I know is the private sector. Each year, I was required to submit what I thought were my goals for that year. It did in fact have bonus ramifications.
It's different in the corporate world.
It is, I'm sure it is. I negotiated those with my boss, whoever that was, and we did in fact monitor it, not just at the end of the year, but would look at it every quarter or so to see how I was making out on those things. So it didn't come as a surprise as to what my bonus was going to be. But again, as you point out, it's a private sector versus public.
Yeah, but I mean, I just wanted to make the point, Jason, that it does go on, okay?
It has been recognized as a fault, you're correct.
In government, okay? So it's not like you said, that these 15 years you've been there, it's never happened.
And the University of Connecticut often plays by their own set of rules.
They're employees of the state of Connecticut.
Yes, they are.
We pay, right?
Well, that and a bunch of out-of-state students blocking your kids from going to UConn.
Jason, you can't admit that you're wrong. You know, they're really trying to.
You and I will start keeping track of the number of times I'm wrong versus you.
Jason. Don't be so mad all the time, Jason. Don't be so mad all the time.
I'm okay having a lecture.
Moving right along, boys, moving right along.
We can certainly, as part of this exercise, to try to bring a full-time economic development professional on board, we would certainly write what we think is a good set of requirements for that person. And in there, it could have goals. If in fact we think it is a benefit to the town to incentivize those things by providing a bonus for good performance, then we could run that through our legal firm and find out whether that's something that is done or is legal. All we want to know is whether it's legal or not. Whether it's done elsewhere or not is interesting, but that's all it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently, they didn't say it was illegal, they just said they didn't have any guidelines here.
Yep.
And there's more to every story, I understand that. But I think that what is important is that, we need to find somebody that is a rainmaker that will bring businesses to town. And, if that helps us to incentivize them And to go back to your question, Jason, what if it comes in year 3 and the person left in year 2, who gets the credit? You would only get a bonus if you're employed, period.
And that, I think, would be a problem for attracting somebody because of the duration it takes for some of these projects to go forward.
Well, I mean, that's,
But again,
people that are selling real estate, they're in that same position. Here, we're trying to get them to do something. Again, there's nothing that says that we have to do this. I was looking for alternatives to get something excited to get somebody into the town. And, if the casino doesn't move forward, we need to really stretch hard on doing that.
I'm sure the Board of Finance will give it due consideration.
Okay, Steve.
Moving right along to Bob.
All right. First, you were all there except for Jason. We had a demolition ceremony, and that was a very good thing. Steve brought his sledgehammer, and that was very useful. So.
Did you take a swing?
No,
No,
but we offered it to, her name is, I forgot. Who was the woman that spoke? Is her name Carol Austin?
Kathy Austin.
I think
Kathy
somebody made
Austin.
a comment.
She's a very forceful person, and she got up there and she railed against it.
She'll put you down, man.
Yeah. So I said, "Do you want this sledgehammer?" And she thought about it.
Sincerely, I'm bummed you didn't take a swing.
But they had this big power shovel.
Couldn't get close enough?
Couldn't get over on the other side.
No, they had a power shovel. They outdid Steve with his little sledgehammer.
That would have been cool. That would have been a picture.
Okay. I'll probably still go over there and swing it anyway. And the building will all fall down. I'll be ethically something.
Also, $100 fine.
$26,000 worth.
I also went to the, not only today I went to the LOB, Legislative Office Building. I went yesterday too. And I went to, with Melissa, and we talked to the Education Committee about a Youth Services Bureau here in East Windsor. And Chris Davis sat with us, and he really put in the bill a clause that would allow us to have a Youth Services Bureau, and they seem pretty positive about it. And I know, I'm just going to pass this out. You can each take one, and it just tells what a Youth Services Bureau is, and it would give us a grant to start a Youth Services Bureau, although we'd have to match some funds, at least in a way, so.
There's an email on the back of it.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not reading this.
All right. I don't know. Glenn Norton's. Okay. And that's my report for today.
You have one more of these, Bob? Okay.
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. Steve, you can take this one. Okay. So now we'll take a 5-minute break and go into executive session.
I thought we canceled that.
Well, I still have more, but I canceled Steve Mednick's. Just be short, because it won't be an hour and a half. Learn how to run this thing, you can do it at Board of Finance.